Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I'm gonna start with a bomb chicka bomb bomb, and then you come in, right? And you're like, you got the touch. Like, just try it.
All right, go.
And then you gotta come in with that. You gotta come in.
I will, yeah. So give me the bomb.
So, bomb ba da da da, ba da 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 da.
You got the touch.
And then I'd be like, you got the power. No, this just sucks.
All right.
So we're just gonna go with the regular.
Okay, go.
So we're talking movies. We're talking Boogie Nights, starring Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, and Mark Wahlberg. Written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. What can you expect when you're on top? You know, it's like Napoleon when he was all like king, you know, and people are just constantly trying to conquer him, you know, like in the Roman Empire. So it's like history, like repeating itself all over again.
This film has so many great quotes. This is a bit of a longer one, but I love this one by Jack Horner. I don't want to make a film where they show up, they sit down and jack off, and then they get up and they get out before the story ends. It is my dream. It's my goal. It's my idea to make a film that the story just sucks them in. And when they spurt out that joy juice, they gotta sit in it. They can't move until they find out how the story ends. You know? I want to make a film like that.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie, where we're talking disco, pornography, and Boogie Nights from 1997. Yeah, this is like, in my opinion, probably one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best films. It's got all my favorite things, the 70s and porn and disco in it. So, Scott, take us away.
Like, I like how we're like a one take pony, because you know you can't even get the year right of the movie we're fucking doing,
which
right?
I'm literally reading off my notes.
Yeah. But one, in terms of your quote, I'm surprised you didn't go with the ew, Scott, no, I don't want to kiss you. Like, no, I'm surprised you didn't go there.
Because I don't actually think about you that much, Scott. I don't even really think about you much when you're on the show with me. So
true enough. Well, before we start, you know, it's film festival season right now, and do you want to say anything to our glorious audience about both these festivals and you know, a certain cast that's amazing.
I mean, it sounds like you probably just want to say it, but
no, you should say it, you know, as the writer.
Yes, we have here in the Kitchener-Waterloo area in Ontario, Canada, for those outside of Canada. We have the Waterloo Regional, we have the Grand River Film Festival coming up, and a certain writer, producer, director, and not in adult film yet. Myself, I actually have two films that are going to be in the Grand River Film Festival, Heartache and Unsolicited. And Unsolicited has actually won Best Cast at the Alt Film Festival. And Mr. Scott Vega is one of the actors in that film. So you can come out and you can see Scott do his thing, other than watching him do his thing here. So is that enough of a fucking plug that you were alluding to, or what?
Well, I think you should have been like, he was the cast member, but I'll go with it. It was an ensemble piece.
It is an ensemble cast. That's like saying that there's like one person in Boogie Nights, because it also has an ensemble cast.
There is one person in Boogie Nights,
and his name is so powerful, the sign explodes, and that name is Dirk Diggler.
Buddy, listen, I hear you, but look, we can't get the tapes. We need the tapes. The magic that's on this tapes is ours, right? You didn't buy that.
All right, let's talk about this fucking movie. I'm super excited to talk about this movie.
In terms of that song, we were talking about it off beat, but you said to save it for here. So you don't know what movie that song originally played in.
I don't. No, yeah, what's it from?
So this movie, when they played the song, 100% ruined my childhood. Because in my head, I'm like, was it a fucking porn guy that fucking sang the song? But the song is originally in Transformers, the movies, the cartoon version. And it's like the big fucking montage song when they like start coming together, and Optimus Prime gives his like power to Rodimus Prime.
Okay. That's it?
In my head, that sounded like that was way more epic. Because
that's really where that song is from? That's crazy.
It's a cartoon. It's literally the cartoon of Transformers, the movie.
Nice. Okay, let's talk about Boogie Nights though, and Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah, give me your broad strokes on this, man.
Yeah, I do. Like, even now, like I enjoy the film. This film does have a lot of flaws in it.
Really? Oh, I'm going to be interesting to hear what you think are flaws in this movie.
How do you not think there's flaws in this movie?
I think this is as perfect as a film as you can get, but let's flesh it out. Go ahead.
Okay. So in terms of the representation of women, so you don't think that there's flawed in this?
I think that the representation of women as portrayed in the 70s seems pretty accurate. I mean, I'm not a historian. I was born in the 70s. I'm old, but I'm not fucking that old. I didn't grow up in the 70s, but it seems like this is how women are kind of treated like this sometimes now. So the idea that they were treated like that in the 70s in the adult entertainment industry, that seems quite plausible. I'm open to, being corrected on that, but that's my basic understanding.
I'll give here my example. Like, I get what you're saying, and I think in terms of that, yes, like women were exploited a lot in terms of in the industry in the time frame. But if you think about it in terms of story arc, Julianne Moore is kind of the villain of this film.
I wouldn't say she's the villain, but go ahead.
Okay, but think about it. Like Mark Wahlberg's character is like the upstart, the star, everybody wants to see him. And then she's the one that pretty much forces him to try cocaine for the first time. And then he didn't like it off the first nostril. And she's like, no, you got to do more. You got to do more. And then he's like, no, I don't, like, kind of forces him into that. And then all of a sudden, the next scene is he's a degenerate drug addict because
it's also the 80s. And some of this is, so you got to remember, this is like loosely based on the life of John Holmes, right? So he had a lot of those problems as well. What's his name from Top Gun? Iceman there. What's his name? Val Kilmer, actually.
Kilmer?
Yeah. What is it called? Like Wonderland? He plays like basically the John Holmes character or whatever. Like his life got all fucked up too. So I hear what you're saying, that like she becomes like the catalyst for, Dirk's downfall, but realistically Dirk is Dirk's downfall, right? Like his ego, his attitude. So Paul Thomas Anderson, actually, Boogie Nights is like the genesis of Boogie Nights is a short film that this fucking guy did in high school called The Dirk Diggler Story. It's like a mockumentary.
Did you watch it?
I did watch it.
Yeah, it was on YouTube. I watched it too. And I'm not gonna lie, like that story was way better than this story.
It's darker. Like it's way darker.
Like 100%. And it actually brings in kind of where it went, like in terms of like Dirk Diggler and oh my god, I'm having a brain
Frank
fart.
Horner, the director, or Rothschild?
Yeah, they were technically lovers as well, right? And then it wasn't just straight porn he would do. It was like he was bisexual. And if you think about it, probably in that industry, like you would get the work to get the work, right? So it didn't really matter. But here it was very like, anything that was associated with
homosexuality,
it was frowned upon, and they got beat up all the time, right? It was alluded to, right? Like even at the beginning when he was like, it's $5 or $10, like whatever you want to just look at it, kind of thing. But yeah, it's like anything that was homosexual was like got beat up on. Like
yeah.
That was close to the end, right? But continue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that feels like a studio decision, right? Like when they're looking at the script, we gotta make this, we gotta make that. I mean, originally Paul Thomas Anderson wanted this thing to be like over 3 hours long. He wanted it to have a NC-17 rating, which in the US is actually the higher than the R rating. And the studio's like, no, like we'll give you R, and it can't be 3 hours. And it comes in about 2.5 hours long, and it has its R rating or whatnot. And so you figure like it was supposed to be raunchier and longer.
That's what she said. Or he said.
I did feel the same way about the Dirk Diggler story. I wish that it would have been like Boogie Nights had been even darker than it is, but I do think it's a very, very good film. Everything they do in this as far as like telling those story arcs. And so one of the things that Paul Thomas Anderson is known for is conflicted characters, right? Like in all his films, his characters have trauma and trouble, and they have social problems and everything, and that is 100% on display in Boogie Nights. And I don't want to dig too much into Paul Thomas Anderson just because he's got a large body of work, and there's lots of places you can go with this, including nepotism, because like really his dad was like a big deal in the TV industry and stuff like that as well. I think he was a broadcaster or something. Have you seen much of his work? Like, have you seen all of his work, or?
Well, we discussed Licorice Pizza, which
is awful.
It's
fucking awful.
Enough.
It's as good as it sounds.
Licorice Pizza. I honestly, I thought that did sound fucking good, right? But I've seen, yes, like I think Punch Drunk Love doesn't get as much credit as it should, and I think Adam
Sandler's awesome in dramatic roles. I wish he would actually do more of them, but maybe it's good that he doesn't, because we remember the ones that he does, like Uncut Gems and Punch Drunk Love, and even Funny People.
Yeah,
it's really good in.
Yeah, Mongolia. Right, like I've seen.
It's Magnolia, not Mongolia.
Oh, really? All right, whatever.
It's the flower, not the country. I'm going. So, did you go to like Magnolia Grill, or?
Yeah, maybe.
All like flowers thrown in a big pan and cooked up.
Yeah, but I think in terms of his films, the only ones I haven't seen is The Phantom Thread.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that one. Inherent Vice, I watched half of it, but then something happened. I had to leave. I never actually finished it, with Joaquin Phoenix. And I thought The Master was amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I've managed to now at least touch on all of his films. I started watching Phantom Thread last night. Inherent Vice is basically unwatchable. Like it's awful. It's all over the place. And it's interesting. So his editor is Dylan, well, for a lot of his films was Dylan Titchner. And so he worked on a whole bunch of his stuff, right? Like There Will Be Blood and a bunch of other ones. And then you start looking at the ones that he didn't work on, like Inherent Vice and Licorice Pizza, and I'm like, the story really falls apart. So it would be interesting to see, like, to put them all up against each other and see where he's moving around with editors, because like the editor-director relationship is so important. I think the editor keeps the director in check often, to be like, yeah, I see where you're trying to go with this, but you're not actually telling that story with what we're seeing on the picture. The editor gets to almost be that second set of eyes, or they actually are that second set of eyes. Because I think that Boogie Nights, I like The Master as well. I also like Magnolia, or Mongolia, as you say. I think Boogie Nights is actually the best film that he has done, where everything comes together. The story, the acting, the soundtrack, the cinematography. Like, that's what I mean by it being like the editing. Like, it is a perfect film. When I was rewatching it, as you know, that I'm working on, well, I'm getting ready to produce another film, but I have another of my own films that I'm putting together, and it has an ensemble cast. And I had originally been going to like Reservoir Dogs as an example of how to shoot some of this. And then I rewatched Boogie Nights, and I'm like, oh, there are so many long takes where the camera just moves around, right? And you just get everybody, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was gonna talk about this too, but you're gonna get into all these fucking boring details about your life, so I'll just put in my 2 cents before we get to it. But yeah, he did it 3 times in this film. And the first time was the pop-in, the intro, where they're going into the club, and he's just first he follows Juan Guzman.
Yep.
And then he's getting intro to pretty much the main cast, right? It's like him putting Burt Reynolds and Julianne Moore onto the booth, and then he goes onto the dance floor. That's where you meet Don Cheadle and everybody, and then he's coming back around, and then, you know, in the background, that's when you first see Mark Wahlberg's character as the busboy. Then he does it again, where it was closer to the end, and it was pretty much like how everything has like gone to shit for everybody, right? Because Mark Wahlberg literally just finished getting beat up by the homophobics. Roller Girl and Burt Reynolds are in the limo, and they pass.
That's not a long take. That's definitely not a long take, because you're editing back and forth.
No, because think about it. It goes from it does the close up from Mark Wahlberg on the floor in the garage, then it pans up to the car that drives by, and then it catches the other car, which is the limo with Burt Reynolds, and then you follow them. And then that's right when they beat up because they interlock the beating up of the one guy
but that's what I'm talking. Like, I understand that you have a scene that is intertwined, but technically, like a long take is that there's no edit, right? So you're right about that opening intro shot, because the camera just keeps moving, right? Like there's no, they don't cut back and forth between Dirk Diggler and
it was just before that, because it finishes with them beating up Roller Girl and Burt Reynolds beating up the other guy, and while that's happening, Mark Wahlberg, but it finishes on Mark Wahlberg pans to the car, then pans to the limo, then pans, and you follow Don Cheadle's car going into that donut place.
But by the way, there's actually a joke that people that don't know about camera movements, all camera movements become pans. They're not tilts, they're not this, they're not that, they're not push-ins, they're all pans.
So, am I right? Is that right though? Was it not a pan?
Some of those were panning shots.
Yeah. So fuck you.
So I would say another really big example of a continuous shot is the 1979 New Year's Eve, right before it turns into the 1980s. And you're coming around. He does it a lot actually with the party scenes, right? Where like, and so you can get you feel like you're there, like you're in that space, right? And then you can move into a bedroom, and then you can come back out. Like when William H. Macy goes in, sees like you everything's happening. You see him come in the door, you see him go into the bedroom, shoot the wife, shoot himself, and the camera still hasn't stopped. They don't edit back. It's not like you shoot and then cut and edit back. The camera pulls back and you see everybody like freak out. It's awesome. Like it gives it such a fluid pace that it's very active. It's a very active film.
But yeah, I think that was like that. I think we discussed it before in our second ever episode, which was the Goodfellas scene when they had the long shot thing. And I think this movie came out 7 years later, and you that's literally what I felt, right? It was just like, hey, he did it once, we're gonna do it multiple times in this film, right? And
it works. I think it very much works for this film. Like again, it brings you into the space by using those. I'm assuming those are all steady cam shots, right? So
yeah, like I think in terms of like characters, like William H. Macy's character was the one like fucking Little Bill, like you felt for that guy this whole fucking time, right? Like and the thing that like got you was the one when it's like the one party outside the beach party at Burt Reynolds, Jack Horner's house, and then it's literally for no apparent reason his wife getting like doing a guy anally while a circle of people are just watching.
And doesn't she say like you're embarrassing
me? Yeah. And then he walks out because he's all like fucking deflated, and then the cameraman starts talking to him about shots and stuff, and then he's like, my wife is literally right fucking there getting like ass fucked, and you're talking to me about lighting and shit. Like I don't have time for this.
Yeah, and he actually says like an ass in an ass in her dick or something instead of a dick in her ass. He actually gets it wrong. And the reason they left it in is because he's so flustered. It really gets to the point of how like he can't even get his words out right. Yeah, I mean, I think this. So listen to this cast: Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds, John C. Reilly, William H. Macy, Heather Graham, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Phil Baker Hall, who was in Cigarettes and Coffee and Hard Eight, and Robert Ridley, who plays the Colonel. And in the Dirk Diggler story, he plays the original Jack Horner. And you would have, you know this because you've seen it, that Jack Horner became two characters in Boogie Nights. That fucking cast is amazing. Like, and they all work together so seamlessly. I am shocked that so many of these female actors were willing to have show so much nudity. Like the story needed it. I understand why it's there. I don't think it's gratuitous. It's actually done in a very like obvious way. Like, yep, we're shooting porn. You take your top off, blah blah blah. But these are like Julianne Moore and Heather Graham were both like solid actors. Like the fact that they were comfortable enough to do those nude scenes with Paul Thomas Anderson, I think is a credit to both him as the director and to them as actors willing to just like do what needs to get done to make the film the way it needs to be made.
Yeah, like I don't know about it that much to speak on it, but again, like you name me one fucking movie made in the 90s that didn't have tits and ass in it. Name me one.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I can't do that either, but I don't know. I guess just watching it in 2022, it's just crazy to think that these very, very recognizable actors were just that comfortable with that level of nudity. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I get you. But back then too, like, wasn't that kind of the joke? Like, you show your tits, you're getting nominated for an Oscar, especially if it's in a dramatic piece. Maybe.
But I mean, so if you think about the fact that, so the character of Eddie or Dirk, right, was offered to Leonardo DiCaprio and Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix said he didn't want to do it because he didn't feel comfortable playing a porn star. But then you got Julianne Moore and Heather Graham, like not only playing porn stars but being like half naked when they do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
but
it just shows
again,
like the contrast between like male actors don't even want to play like the character, and the female actors are not only playing the characters but going like very deep into those characters and showing off a lot of nudity in order to get the character right. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, and even Burt Reynolds had a lot of reservations about like his like this movie and his portrayal in it too, right?
Which is funny because he got an Oscar nod, a BAFTA nod, and he won a SAG award for it, or no, a Golden Globe, I believe, for it. It was like it's probably his most nominated role in his film history. Yeah,
but okay, so and I was just
and he's awesome, by the way. Burt Reynolds as Jack Horner, like I couldn't even imagine like anybody else playing Jack Horner. And I mean, Bill Murray, Harvey Keitel, Warren Beatty, Albert Brooks, and Sidney Pollack were all considered for the role. And I can't even imagine, like Burt Reynolds is the 70s, the fucking mustache, like Burt Reynolds, the actor is the 70s. So having him as like the porno director of the 70s is perfect. It's like the fucking role was written for the man, you know?
Yes. Now, as I was saying before you fucking interrupted me. So if you're looking at Julianne Moore, so before Boogie Nights, pretty much the only other film that, you know, she had a major kind of commercial effect would have been The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Everything else was just like supporting parts, like in The Fugitive and Benny and June, in 9 months. So it was pretty much this one, Jurassic Park comes out, this one comes out, Big Lebowski comes out, and then she's in the Psycho remake. And then all of a sudden, you know, she's taken off. Well, I think this film, you know, obviously showed what she can do, right?
She's so good. Like her acting in this is so good. Like going between the like, you know, caring mother to like the coked out caring mother, to like the.
Oh my God, let's get out of the. Let's go for a walk. I don't want to get out of this
but I don't want to.
Me neither.
Me either. Like,
how about you just call me mom? I'm gonna ask you if you're my mom, and you're just gonna say yes. Are you my mom?
yes. Let's go do a pottery class.
I'll ask you if you're my mom, okay? And you say yes, okay? Are you my mom? Yes, honey. Yes. Yes.
And Paul Thomas Anderson does a really good job with showing like that kind of like cocaine, not quite psychosis, but like you feel edgy. You feel edgy watching those scenes, right? Because he's editing back and forth really tightly, and their dialogue is coming out really, 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 really fast. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's no, like, it's a 2.5-hour movie, and at no point do you go, yo, and when the fuck is this movie over? Like, I was actually shocked when I checked the time on it. I was like, oh my God, this is a fucking long movie. Like, everything needs to be there. Like that series, you know, into the 80s and stuff like that. Like, you have to have that because it completes your story arc. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Now, in terms of like, this film was nominated for some Oscars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it.
I've got for supporting actor, for supporting actress, and original screenplay, and that's what it's got. It BAFTA nods for supporting actor and original screenplay, and it didn't.
But I don't think it won any, right?
It did not. It won at some of the other like minor award shows and stuff.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I should have seen who did win in those years. Because I'm surprised it didn't win for original screenplay. Like, it's a pretty solid screenplay. But I mean, it's sort of like, you know, when we talked about Brokeback Mountain, like, sometimes depending on where you are in history, the Academy has a certain kind of mindset. And so it could very easily have been, they're like, we're not giving a bunch of Oscars to a movie about porno. Where now, I think if you release Boogie Nights now, it would even do better, right? Like, well,
I think
in respect, maybe not quite right now because people can't watch fucking movies for 2.5 hours anymore. So
there was a 4-hour fucking Justice League movie that was very well reviewed.
Got him!
But what was I gonna say, like, the one, I don't know if this film has been made because I didn't actually look into it, but watching this film, the one kind of like thread story arc that I would like to see is when you look at the actual pornography industry, where it goes from film to video to now digital, like, and how that kind of like sets pop culture. Because like, in terms of VHS and beta, the thing that won that, why VHS won it, was because of porn.
Yes,
it was absolutely easier to produce porn on VHS than it was beta, and which we kind of see in that background scene when they finally have, like, when Jack Horner's character finally goes to video, and then he's just walking that little warehouse, and it's just like shelves and like fucking just a warehouse full of fucking like porn videos.
So the most recent one that I'm super excited to see, that's just getting its actual like wider release, is called Pleasure. It got nominated for Indie Spirit Awards this year in the 2022 Indie Spirit Awards. And it's kind of, it misses the 80s until now, and it's about now, right? It's about a woman moving from a small town to Los Angeles, and she wants to be like on top of the world, right? Like in the porn industry. So, and then, I mean, there is stuff like King Cobra, which talks about the gay porn industry a bit in the streaming world. Yeah. Because it's not on VHS, I don't believe, at that point. I think they're starting to do streaming. But yeah, it would be interesting to see that, almost like that Boogie Nights, like, so that pickup, you pick up in the VHS world, and then you take it through Vivid, through all of that, like the Jenna Jameson's, the rise of the actual like popularly like known porn star, and then into the stuff like, you know, Pornhub and the streaming services.
Well, I think we should write it. There you go. You just made it. We just made your you just got your next film in the can. Like, that's right. That
was my elevator pitch.
There you go.
So now, go ahead.
I was going to say, in terms of like, there's somebody that did believe that there was a flaw in this film. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, fuck, here we go.
but his name's Tarantino.
I
Quentin
knew that was going to
Tarantino.
happen. Because it's funny. I also have a quote about Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, like when this film came out, Paul Thomas Anderson, which, like, I don't get interview. Like, I know we don't, like, in terms, like, I wish we can get like famous people on here, like, you know,
We're working
Quentin
on it,
Tarantino. Yeah. But like some of the things that I don't get is why constantly comparing one person to another and then asking that person. It's like, hey, Chris Langfield.
It's Langford. It's Langford.
No, I'm just saying, like, because it would be an interviewer and he'd most likely just say your name wrong.
Oh, okay. I thought that was just you.
Right?
I was like, I thought this was like a Mongolian grill situation. So
no.
a Mongolian grill situation.
He'd be like, yeah, you know, your work's a lot like you know, Jacques Cousteau. How do you feel about that?
It feels good to be an all-American.
But yeah, so when this film came out, he was being compared a lot to Quentin, enough so that he actually reached out to Quentin Tarantino, like, I'm getting fucking asked about you all the time. I figure we should talk and get to know each other. And now they're like bosom buddies.
They're BFFs.
Yeah, they're pretty much.
They're BAFTA BFFs.
They're pretty much us. And which Quentin just talks about himself, and Paul's just like, Quentin's a good guy. I like Quentin.
not an unreasonable comparison.
But his critique of this film is actually the Burt Reynolds character. And reading this and then watching this movie, I 100%, like, it never clued in because
you got to tell us what he fucking said before you give your reason for.
But I'm just saying, but it's in regards to, you know, the cop porno film, right? Like your quote that you used was like his goal to make a film.
To make like a real film that you wanted to see the whole story.
And then, you know, they make this cop porno film.
Mm-hmm.
And then
with Brock Landers.
Yeah, he makes the comment saying, you know, this is the best movie I've ever made. But you see clippets of that movie and it looks like fucking shit.
Uh-huh.
Like even the other stuff they were showing before looked better than this. It just looked like pieces of shit.
So what did Quentin Tarantino say? We're still trying to get back to that.
Yeah, so his critique was that obviously Burt Reynolds' character was actually based on the director Jared Dimano, who directed Deep Throat, what I believe was like the most popular porn movie ever made.
With Lindsay Loveless, yeah, and it turned out like it was basically like mob funded, and she was like forced into a bunch of stuff. But yeah, it was like porn that crossed like the mainstream. Like
it was actually shown in it was shown in actual theaters as well. Correct. And then he was saying, in terms of your quote, and then Tarantino goes, believe me, I've seen more porno movies than Paul has because I used to work at a porno theater and I saw a lot of movies that were crappy like that. But he has Burt's character say that it's full on moving close up. This is the greatest work yet. It's my finest work. He goes, Dimano was a better director than that. And thus Jack Horner should have been a better director than that. Dimano was a good enough filmmaker to know the difference between, oh wow, this is the best I've ever done, and oh, this one has a little bit of story. It's a cheap line because the character would know the difference, and the work is not the best work he could possibly have done.
Man, that's a solid criticism from Tarantino. And it's like, it's unfortunate because you're right. Now that I think about it, I'm like, they could have fixed that by just having that footage of Dirk Diggler in that film, like even in just that one, right, in the first one, because as he gets shittier, like the quality of the film goes down. You could have had it beautiful, right? You shoot it really beautifully, and then it's like it does look like the best work he's ever done, and then you can just go downhill from there. I mean,
if they use the same, I don't know what kind of film they used in this movie. I'm guessing like 12 millimeter.
It would be 35 millimeter.
Whatever. So, but it looks like it was made in an 8mm.
Yes.
Like it looks like
yeah.
that
Well, and
film, but-
it's grainy and it's fucking not lit well, and you know, stuff like that.
So if they went to that film and technically using the same film they're using for filming Boogie Nights,
Yes.
and then once you see the other film, like the other sequels that they would just pan out, and those get shittier and shittier.
You pan left and right, you pull out.
You know, are you still starving? Why don't you feast on this?
That's actually that's great criticism from Tarantino. One of the reasons I think that this is like Paul Thomas Anderson's best work is I think he had a lot invested in it personally because he had done the Dirk Diggler story. And I'm going to tie this in with one of the quotes I have. The Tarantino, so this is Jason Bailey from Vice. The Tarantino comparison is ultimately less about technique than a shared joyful electricity of the filmmaking. The sense of an artist clearly high on the sheer act of making a movie. And you feel Paul Thomas Anderson's passion in this film. Like it feels like he went over this thing with like a fine-tooth comb. Every line, every music cue, every shot, everything is like the best he could deliver. And I think that's why it's actually like, again, I haven't finished Phantom Thread. It's very slow. It's a very slow like period piece. But Boogie Nights feels like it was made with love. You know what I mean? It's like after you shoot that joy juice, you've just got to sit there and you can't move until you watch the rest of the film. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I 100% agree with you, right? Like, and a lot of directors get to do that, right? Like, look at, you know, Sam Raimi, his short Cabin in the Woods then becomes Evil Dead, and then he got to remake it again with a big budget and make Evil Dead 2. So, and you can see the love each time. And I think once, you know, a local director gets even more funding and all of a sudden Unsolicited becomes a full-length feature film about relationships and dick pics, right? Like we're gonna feel that love. It's gonna be,
buddy, I already know how Unsolicited gets turned into a 90-minute feature film. Like I already have that story in my head.
That's
so
what I'm saying,
it's totally
right?
doable.
Like, that's what I'm saying. You're gonna feel the love. It's gonna be the juice in there, and we're just gonna sit and bask in it. We may even moisturize ourselves with it.
So I mean, Boogie Nights still stands up. It's currently got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got an 89% audience score. Made on a budget of 15 million, 43 million at the box office. I mean, I'd wonder how much it's made since it's moved into like the video on demand kind of world. Not bad for a running time of 2.5 hours. You know, written, directed, and produced. He was one of the producers, Paul Thomas Anderson, on it. A little bit of CanCon. Joanne Gleason, who plays Dirk's mother, is a Tony Award-winning actor from Winnipeg. She is also the daughter of a Canadian game show host. The host is Monty Hall. He is Canadian. The game show is Let's Make a Deal, which is an American show. So there's your can moment for this show. You got anything else you want to talk about, Scott?
You got the touch. No. You got the. I'm done.
All right. So the last thing I'm going to leave you on, I know it's normally Scott, is this last quote from Emmanuel Levy from Variety. Considering the potentially explosive nature of the yarn set in the porn world, Anderson's strategy is remarkably non-judgmental and non-sensationalist, largely due to his love and respect for all the characters and his impressive storytime skills.
How the fuck could you not end with, yeah, I'm a star, baby. I'm a fucking star. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com. If you make your war movie and fucking Spielberg's like, don't fucking do this, and you're like, what the fuck did you do? Right? Like that was fucking like 30 years ago, Saving Private Ryan. Why don't you go make some Ready Player One?
Why don't you go make some fucking
up.
Dinosaur movie? Oh wait, you
Why don't
invented
you go
dinosaurs
make
for
Indiana
that
Jones
movie.
10, man. Old man. We'll make some West Side Story. Like, come on. Like,
Fucking Chris Langford. I'm gonna make fucking magic happen here. The magic that's on that film, that's my magic. Okay, you may own the film, but that's my magic. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.